1140, a radio.com sports station.
CBS Sports Flash.
I'm Justin Shackle. The first meaningful upset in March coming way before Selection Sunday. It happens in Vegas at the Mountain West Conference title game.
Flynn now comes up to the half-court line. And let's see whether they'll try to set some screens here to get Malachi Flynn open. And they do. Flynn gets a shot off. It is up. And it's no good. Utah State has won the game. Utah State, back-to-back conference champions in the Mountain West Conference tournament.
Call from Learfield IMG College. The Aggies of Utah State punched their ticket. They're the first team into the NCAA tournament after upsetting number 5 San Diego State 59-56. The Mountain West looks like it will have 2 teams in the dance. Other games from Saturday, 4th-ranked Baylor ends its regular season dropping 3 of its final 5 games. They lose on the road at West Virginia, 76-64. Top-ranked Kansas edging Texas Tech, 66-62. Number 3, Dayton, easy work over George Washington, 76-51. Number 6, Kentucky rallied from 18 down to top Florida, 71-70. 11th-ranked Creighton beat number 8 Seton Hall, 77-60 to grab a share of the Big East regular season title. Virginia edged Louisville 57-54 for their 8th straight win. Duke over North Carolina 89-76. NBA last night, Steph Curry, off his return Thursday, sat out with the flu against the Sixers. Warriors got by without him, downing Philadelphia 118-114. Philly's now 6th in the East. The Nuggets lost to the Cavs 104-102. Rockets lose their 3rd in a row, falling to the Hornets 108-99. Grizzlies get back to the 500 mark after downing the Hawks 118-101. Jazz win their 5th straight, defeating the Pistons 111-105. The Nets' Jock Vaughn will make his interim coaching debut later today against the Bulls. It comes after Brooklyn parted ways with Coach Kenny Atkinson after 3+ seasons. From Brooklyn General Manager Sean Marks.
This is a compromise that both Kenny and I and ownership came up with. I think I've said before that it was time. You know, Kenny grinded and did everything he could, but there was time for another voice in that locker room, and it's our job now to find it.
Reports say that the firing was player-driven. NFL with the deadline to apply the franchise tag coming up this Thursday. The Dallas Morning News reports the Cowboys' latest offer to quarterback Dak.
You can find us any time of the day or night at CBSSportsRadio.com.
The only way you can take CBS Sports Radio 1140 with you is with the radio.com app. Download it today and listen to us anytime, anywhere. We've got your Raiders covered.
Knock on wood if you're with me.
It's Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140. And now, here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio. Happy Sunday to you. We are now 10 days, ladies and gentlemen, from the beginning of the new NFL year. Yes, that's right, March 18th. A lot of this chatter about free agents, about quarterbacks, where they may go. We might get some answers starting in 10 days, so stay with us. Today's show got a lot of stuff for you. I want to make sure you stick around. In the first hour, Hunter Renfrow, our extended interview with him this week. We're going to talk to him not only about what he was doing here in Las Vegas to help the community, but also the one thing. That's right, he told us there's one specific thing that he must do to get better. That's right, to get better in his second year in the NFL. We'll let you hear from him what he thinks that will be. We'll also get a report from our correspondent, David Stepanian, who was out for Nevada Reading Week with Raider quarterback Jay Schrader. Again, the Raiders doing a lot in our schools, and so he will be with us later as well with that story. And also Jim Jacks. Of course, Jim, many Raider fans know. Of course, he's got a celebrity podcast, his media network. He's going to talk to us. He tweeted out something earlier this week about Raider fans and kind of how some of them have changed and younger fans. And I actually have a UNLV tie-in I'll share with him on that one too. But we're going to talk to Jim at the bottom of the hour. And pardon me, we'll talk to you about that. We'll also in the second hour. Really excited about this one, guys. We were going to talk to Daryle Lamonica. That's right, the Mad Bomber, and how he got the nickname. Now, you might think you know how he got the nickname and why, but who gave it to him is the story. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll also hear from him how he was almost a Chicago Cub. That's right.
What?
Yes, he was a multi-sport athlete at Clovis High School up in the Central Valley, which gave us two other Raider quarterbacks, of course, Tom Flores and Derek Carr. So we will talk to him. We're going to have him for 2 segments. So we're going to be able to do that with Kelly's Corner and more. And speaking of Kelly Kreiner, I want to bring in my co-hosts now and introduce you to them and see how they're doing today. Kelly Kreiner is with us. He made it in today. He survived the coronavirus scare. Kelly, how you doing today, buddy?
Well, I've survived it so far. But we were talking about it at work last night. It's like, it's not if, it's when and who. That's like, at work, we all know we're getting it eventually.
Yep.
It's who's going to be the person that brings it in and when.
Well, surprising because Las Vegas, how many thousand people are here every weekend coming from all reaches?
When they came out that it can be transferred through money, we all just started laughing. It's like, yeah, on the Las Vegas Strip handling cash all day, we're going to die.
Well, I haven't heard anything. Has the NFL said anything about the draft?
Well, we're going to get to that in a minute. And everybody's like, okay, who's that voice? I hear it because we haven't had a chance to introduce. But here is Mr. Chaz Osborne.
Hey,
Chaz.
Raider Nation, good morning.
Yes, it's a good morning.
Great to be here.
I'm trying to stave off my cough. I don't have the coronavirus cough. I have the sinus infection cough from 2 weeks, and I never had a cough until yesterday. So go figure. Anyway,
yeah, your symptoms didn't pop up until yesterday.
Yeah,
so
it's funny. You've been quarantined for 2 weeks.
I know that's the way it goes. But Chaz, no, it's a great point. In fact, I wanted to talk a little bit about that because this week the NFL, of course, the draft coming to Las Vegas, as everybody knows,
right?
In April, just a month away now, a little more than a month. And this week they asked the NFL about it because the NHL has now said that you can't go in locker rooms anymore and interview players to try to control the spread of it. They don't want their precious athletes to get it, I guess.
Well, the NBA is talking about playing in empty arenas.
Correct. And so you have that, but the NFL has said they're watching it very closely to see what happens. Now, I do know you talk to, most of us have friends. Kelly, you work in the service industry here in Las Vegas. It is hurting business. I mean, there's a lot of issues going on. It's already starting to hurt here in Las Vegas. And of course, that will give lots of fodder to anti-stadium people who will say, oh, what are you going to do about the tax now? But nonetheless, for my neighbors and friends here in Las Vegas, it's a big deal. And I think it's overblown. But the NFL, knowing that there's this hysteria about it, they're getting concerned. And you talked about the NBA, Chaz, where you used to work, talked about playing games in front of the NCAA has talked about this.
Right.
It's like, look, people know risk. There's risk. You can fall down the stairs at an arena and break your neck and die. So I don't understand why. Now, if it's player safety, one thing,
right?
But the spread of the stuff, I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't make sure that we keep clean and do what we can.
No, but the people that have maybe a respiratory problem or other, they've always had medical history of medical. Maybe they won't be the ones going to the arena. That would be the key, right? Those types of people staying home. And, other people that are healthy. And maybe I heard the girl from the Las Vegas Aces, she was talking about when she was playing in China during the offseason from the WNBA. And her and another player thought that they had contacted the coronavirus because they were laid up for a couple of weeks in the hospital over there. So it's something that you can get, kind of like a flu bug, and it'll go away. And that's the one question I was wondering is, if you get it, does it stay with you? After you, it's just like the flu bug. You get it every year, every couple of years, right?
Well,
Sorry, I had turned off my button so I could cough. But here's the thing. You're right. And Cambridge, the gal from the WNBA team here in the Las Vegas Aces, for those of you who don't know, we have a WNBA team in Las Vegas. She had talked about that, but yet and in some ways, I understand, she doesn't know that she had the coronavirus. She doesn't know that she did or didn't.
Right.
So I get that. So for someone of that celebrity to come out and say, well, I think I might have had it, it's like, well, you don't know that you had it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we live in these dangerous times where social media and all this stuff, we start talking about things we don't know. Okay, so protect yourself, wash your hands. Right. By the way, there's lots of people through the years that I've gone into men's rooms, I know it sounds bad, to use the facilities, that people don't wash their hands just on a normal basis. So that grosses me out.
Well,
but nonetheless,
the point of the story is better safe than sorry, right? So I'm not sure what the NFL's plan is. Like you said, they're keeping an eye on it. Better safe than sorry. If there's, I know there's only a 1% chance. I canceled my trip. I was supposed to be in Asia right now. As a
less than 1%.
But
it's 0.1%.
Yeah. So better safe than sorry,
See, I'm the exact opposite of you right now, Chaz. I was actually looking up flights to Italy yesterday because I'm like, I can get probably the cheapest flight and trip ever to Italy. So it's like a coronavirus. I'm like, whatever.
But you can't go visit anything because everything's closed.
I wasn't going to go to the Vatican anyway. Oh. I mean, it's...
Shame on you, coming from a Catholic. Anyway, but nonetheless, here's the thing. So coronavirus, there's no sense yet of this spread. People buying masks and toilet paper, for the love of God. Stop buying toilet paper. I mean, it doesn't even give you the runs.
Well,
eventually you're going to need it.
Yeah, that's true.
You can still buy it. Stop hoarding it.
Right there, you go. That. Thank you. That's that's a key distinction, Kelly.
Yes.
I appreciate that, and the world appreciates that. But just settle down. To your point, Chaz, be careful. Wash your hands. If you I have young kids, right? So wash your hands. Make sure they wash their hands. That's all you got to do. Just chill out. But canceling sporting events and stuff, I don't know. In other news, I want to get to, guys, because this is set ablaze Raider Nation again. And again, it has to do with Derek Carr. I don't want to talk about Derek Carr unless they trade him or unless he does something good. Okay? But I will tell you this. Josh Jacobs is in hot water this morning for ridiculous reasons. He did. Dana White, of course, of UFC, is out, and he's a Patriots fan, by the way, self-professed. But he also likes the Raiders. They're coming to Vegas. Dana White is Las Vegas. I've seen a lot of Raider fans and even some Raider journalists who are saying, "Oh, Dana White, shut up." They don't understand Dana White and the Fertittas in Las Vegas and how much of a part of the fabric of our sports community they are. So when you say Dana White, shut up, you don't mean anything outside Las Vegas. That's not true. If you know what UFC is and the juggernaut, sorry, it's a sports juggernaut. And if you belittle who Dana White and the Fertitta brothers are, you're ridiculous. But nonetheless, so he has an Instagram interview again, like he did with Tom Brady the other day that caused a bunch of news, with Josh Jacobs, who said, "Oh, what would you think about playing with Tom Brady?" And Josh said, "Oh, man, he's one of the greatest, blah, blah, blah." So everybody took that, like everybody gets insulted by everything today, okay? Took that as Josh Jacobs slamming his current quarterback, which he did not. He did not say anything negative about Derek Carr. Him and Derek Carr are friends, not a problem. He just, if somebody says, "Hey, if LeBron James came to play with you and you're on the Knicks, so how would you think of that?" "Oh, I'd love that, man. He's the greatest player, one of the greatest players of all time." Okay, so that's all Josh Jacobs said. So all of those of you getting your panties in a bunch, just relax. He didn't say much. But why are they giving him, Chaz, all this grief for just saying that, it would be fun to play with one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game?
Well, it's just the same thing we're talking about with this divisive, half the people are against the coronavirus saying it's nothing, half the people are stocking up on toilet paper and water. Divisive with Derek Carr. So if you're going to say something that has anything,
just
circling
anything
around
related.
Derek Carr, anything in that universe, it's going to be one of those divisive things, and the Derek Carr conversation just starts spreading like wildfire again.
Kelly, what would you say to these people who are upset at Josh Jacobs?
I expect stuff like that from people anymore.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's looking for a reason to be outraged, or they're not getting through their day, and this is just perfect fodder for them.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, "Why's Dana White popping up? Why is it?" Dana White had a fight to promote last night, and it was a mediocre fight. Exactly. He was trying really hard to sell. Well, turns out one of the best fights you'll ever see in a UFC card.
It's always like that.
It was the women's championship fight. Was amazing.
Yeah.
The men's fight was probably the worst championship fight I've ever seen in the history of sports.
That's the buzz this morning.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was terrible. It was trash. The women's fight was awesome. Like, it's one of the best. I've been watching UFC forever. And it kind of, last few years kind of got out of it a little bit. That fight was awesome.
Well, but the thing is, you're right. But again, for those of you outside Las Vegas, Dana White and the Fertitta brothers, very powerful. And Dana White might say he is a Patriots fan. And this is going to be a lot of fans in Las Vegas. They were a Bills fan, a Patriots fan, a Cowboys fan, God forbid, a Browns fan. But they live in Las Vegas. Dana White is all about Las Vegas, okay? So when he says something about wanting to get these players to the Raiders, and I know it's Tom Brady, but the fact is that's because he cares about Las Vegas, and he does care about the Raiders. He knows all those guys. He knows it's going to be the biggest sport presence in Las Vegas once they're completely here. Yep. So everybody, here's the deal with the Derek Carr thing and with all of this. Just settle down, okay? Just chill. March 18th, we'll know a lot more. Just everybody relax. Let's talk about linebackers. Let's talk about cornerbacks. Let's talk about all this. There's so much to talk about, and of course, we're going to get to it. We have to take a break.
Does Dana know that Tom Brady's not good anymore?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Because they're buddies, so he doesn't. But anyway, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to be joined, we're going to play you our extended interview with Raiders wide receiver Hunter Renfrow. So some good stuff there from 3rd and Renfro. Kelly's favorite player. I know Mo Moten is listening because that's his guy. And we'll hear.
When did I become anti-Hunter Renfrow?
I know. We just like playing that up. All right. I told him Kelly didn't like it. Anyway, when we come back, we'll hear from Hunter Renfrow, and we'll hear about Nevada Reading Week. The Raiders, Jay Schrader.
The Dodgers, the Padres, spring training tomorrow afternoon at 12:30 on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, where you have a coughing host. I do not have coronavirus. Settle down. Save me some toilet paper, some water. By the way, people, I know it doesn't taste that great, but you can get water out of the faucet. Like, you can get water out of the faucet, folks. I mean, in an emergency like you're stuck in your house, not an emergency like the water supply has been tainted because something terrible happened.
What is this, 1994?
I don't know.
Oh, no. It's crazy. Anyway, we are back and we are talking about the Raiders football team, the Las Vegas Raiders. How are you guys getting used to hearing that, by the way?
When I see it on, like, if I'm reading an article or something and I see it, it's still, seeing the LV is just still a little, it's a cool feeling, but it's a little awkward still.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even when they came to Los Angeles, you never really said Los Angeles. You just say Raiders. You don't say Las Vegas. Hey, I'm going to go watch the Las Vegas. You just say I'm going to the Raider game.
And that's
why we're talking about the Las Vegas Raiders.
Raiders, baby, Raiders. That's all you need to know.
But, Kelly, Marcus Mariota, that's the other name that's been creating a stir.
Yeah, well, he was the second best quarterback in that draft class. So, I mean...
He was, but here's the thing. Marcus Mariota has no chance to be the Raiders starting quarterback. Don't think they're going to trade Derek Carr to have Marcus Mariota as the quarterback.
Nah, but you're acting like he might. I mean, I don't think he could beat out Derek Carr.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so, but it's not like that would be an absurd impossibility. Because let's not forget that the Tennessee Titans franchise, up until a nice playoff run this year, hasn't been the most well-ran organization from the top down. So it's possible that maybe Marcus Mariota was just in a bad position.
Right. They might have been using him wrong. But certainly it's a great name. I think we talked about it a few weeks ago on the show, on the Tuesday night show. That's a great name to come in and maybe push Derek Carr, like you've been talking about, Scott, having a veteran backup or one of these young guys come in, light a little fire under Carr, which I don't really think you need to. He's obviously played well. You hear him talk, Mayock talking about the numbers. They're just, they're not translating into wins. But you have a guy like that come in, push Carr, maybe it gets him up,
Yeah, but don't you already have that guy on your roster in DeShone Kizer?
Oh, stop.
I mean, he's the next in a great line of Notre Dame quarterbacks like Brady, Quinn, and Jimmy Clausen.
We're talking to a great Notre Dame quarterback at the top of the hour, so be quiet.
Yeah, he's better than Brady, Quinn, Jimmy Clausen, and DeShone Kizer now.
Yes, that's true. I would agree with that. But I will tell you that, our good friend Stacy, who's been a longtime listener, he's saying on the YouTube chat, Raiders need to trade Carr. The players know the organization doesn't have the confidence in him. It's irresponsible to ask Carr to lead the team without support. #free Carr. And I don't necessarily disagree with Stacy's point where, look, if you're waffling, and that's why last week I had a couple people really go nuts on me for saying that Mayock and Gruden's public support of Derek Carr was tepid, because it was. Right. And I think Stacy sees that too, and he understands that. And I agree. If you're ready to move on, move on. Again, we're not going to get caught up in the Derek Carr talk all day. But I don't think Marcus. I think people with Marcus Mariota I've said all along, and thank you for bringing it back up, Chess. I've said all along, if you want to bring in a backup quarterback to push Carr a little bit, Marcus Mariota is fine, because I don't think Marcus Mariota can beat out. If you look at the numbers over the course of his career, I don't care if he's in a crappy organization. You could say that the Raiders have not been the best organization either over the last 20 years. I don't see him beating out Derek Carr. So
he's good, and if they do come into that situation where Carr gets injured, he is a guy that could flip the script, kind of like a Tannehill, and get him some wins. And if they're the defense steps up this year and they are contending for the playoffs, there's a guy that could step right in and still win you a few ball games.
Well, I'll tell you. Go ahead, Kelly. You're going to say.
I was going to say, and I think you mentioned that the players don't care if management's behind a player or not. They don't look at it that way. They're seeing that stuff in the locker room. And we saw that in Jacksonville this year where they overpaid Nick Foles because they wanted everybody to think, well, he's our starter, so just so everybody gets behind him, we're going to pay him extra money. Right. That means none of that stuff means nothing for management down. It's what that guy's doing in the locker room. And I don't think Carr has to worry about the players being behind him.
No, he's a great guy and he's a good quarterback. So we'll leave it at that for now. All right. Well, speaking of good guys and good things happening in the Las Vegas community, this week I was fortunate to go out to Rancho High School and spend time, and I'll tell the story when I get back after we hear from him, because there's some funniness. with Hunter Renfrow. But when Hunter Renfrow was in town, he was at Rancho High School for National School Breakfast Week to talk about the importance of eating breakfast. And he shared that he was not a breakfast guy, and when he started playing in the NFL, that was a mistake because he needed all the energy and bulk he could get. But we were able to talk to Hunter Renfrow. I want to bring you that conversation. Here is Hunter Renfrow, current wide receiver with the Raiders. Hunter Renfrow joins us here. We're at Rancho High School this morning. You're out here with the kids to talk about the importance of eating a good breakfast. Talk about your involvement with the Dairy Council and what you're out here doing today.
Yeah, I'm talking about breakfast, dairy, and exercise. That's kind of the big three things. The National Dairy Council and the the Dairy Farmers of America had me out. And so just talking about the importance of nutrition. I had a situation last year where I was in Oakland and I was not eating breakfast. And it would get to noon every day and I'd be tired and hungry. And we'd be going out to practice and I couldn't perform my best and get better. And so I really just started drinking milk and eating breakfast every day, and it was big for me. And so I was excited to share that with the guys here.
What about that, though, sitting out here with the kids, and I saw you sitting down eating with them, and the excitement on their faces. What does it mean for you as now an NFL player out here to be able to mix it up with them a little bit?
I love that. I mean, it's fun because football is football. I mean, you cut up with them, you cut up with your own teammates. I mean, football brings so many people together. I mean, football brought me to talk to them. I'm from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I mean, it just brings so many people together, and it's such a great sport. And so, and it's funny, like all football and all teams are like the same. Like you just cut up and have a good time, and you rag each other about wins and losses and how you do. And so it was cool just talking to them and give them the message of, all right, just be your best. You don't have to be like everyone else. Just be your best.
Again, we're talking to Raiders wide receiver Hunter Renfrow. And Hunter, you Las Vegas for the first time. When I talked to you when we first got here, you're in Las Vegas. You haven't seen much of it yet, but I know you're going out to the stadium later. Talk about the excitement. I mean, it's obviously bittersweet leaving Oakland for those fans, but coming to Las Vegas, new stadium, new facility. How is that for you guys on the team?
Yeah, we're excited. I mean, we can't get here fast enough. We were very thankful for Oakland, the city of Oakland, the fans, and hopefully a lot of them will come with us because we have great fans in Oakland, but we're excited about what Las Vegas brings. I mean, this is my first time, like you said. I've never been here. And my perception of Vegas was a strip. And so that's kind of how I envisioned it, but there's so much more out here. It's actually an incredible, beautiful place with good golf courses. I know we talked about that. I love to play golf, and so, it's so exciting, and the fans and the people around Las Vegas that I've talked to are so excited we're here. And so hopefully we can get some wins for them and start building some seasons and build a dynasty.
Okay, so now you're getting ready to go into year two. You've been through the gauntlet of year one. You even got a nice little injury there towards the end. Welcome to the NFL. But what was the biggest lesson you learned coming out of your first season?
I got to get stronger. I think that's the biggest thing. I think the injury that I had, I broke my rib, was just a product of not being in as good a shape as I should have. Last year we had the combine, we had Senior Bowl, we had all these things, and you really couldn't get a full off season and get in shape. And so that's something that I've been trying to do, is work on my core, just be a better player because I'm a better athlete. And so that's something I'm working on. And I know Derek has been on me about eating right, and that's kind of what I've been changing as well.
What about this team? I mean, offensively, you guys had such a great year last year. You seem so close to really breaking it open. Talk about that, and you'll get reinforcements this year, free agency, the draft. But what was it about that offense that really started to click for you guys?
Yeah, we're getting better, but everybody else is getting better through free agency. And I really do think, I know it's cliche and it sounds, but it's really our chemistry together. I mean, we genuinely like each other off the field. We'll go and we'll play a game called Werewolf. We'll always play. And we're in London playing hide and go seek in the hotel. And I mean, it's just we care about one another. And when you start caring about one another, I mean, you want to go the extra mile for them, right? And so I know it's cliche, and that's what people don't really like to hear, but I really do think so much of football is just trusting one another and going the extra mile for one another.
And what about, I mean, you go into this year now having been a cohesive unit, and again, there's always additions and subtractions, but for you coming out of college, you were in a big program, obviously won a national championship. How different is it being in the NFL than it is in college with all of that kind of going on around you?
Yeah. It's been good. Yeah, it was a fiasco last year. We had all the stuff to free agency. I mean, everybody was new. Everybody was new to the Raiders. So on offense, we got Waller. We have so many guys that are in their second year with Derek and the team. And so we're going to have a lot of chemistry there. But it is different. It's different coming home to a wife. I got married, and so time management, she does a good job of cooking meals. But you're not just coming home to hang out with your friends and your boys. So that's a little different. I think the time management is different. It's a job now. It's not just something you do for fun, and it is fun. And I don't mean it in an extent where, it's a job where you are slaving through it. It is a lot of fun. We have a good time doing it.
Well, as someone who's been married 23 years, the only advice I'll give you is she's always right. Yeah. All right, Hunter Renfrow, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, there you have it. Hunter Renfrow. A couple things. Number one, I gave him marriage advice at the end. You're welcome. Second piece of it is the thing, and just because we were listening to the interview here in the studio, as you guys were, and two things. One was the video game thing, which he had told me. Actually, I got there at the same time Hunter did early, and we were standing there, and as we walk in, the security guard from the high school asked him for his ID.
Nice.
He thought he was a high school student because he looks young, except for the hairline. He looks young. So not only that, but then we were talking golf. We were talking about those other things. He talked about how him and Derek Carr are very close. They play video games every day together, and Derek was sharing photos of his house being built here in Las Vegas. And but outside of that, in that interview, I hear playing video games, and then I hear, Evan in London, we're playing hide and go seek. The Raiders are playing hide and go seek in a hotel in London, Chaz.
Well, there's the adult version of that. I'm not sure what that entails.
What are you saying?
We can't talk about that on air, but
or they could have been like, we want to go out and do something, but Hunter's came around. Hey, dude, we're gonna play hide. You go hide. We'll find you.
1, 2, 3, let's go.
And again, having him out there, it was so great. I mean, I had not met Hunter before. Just a great kid, very down to earth. He was asking me a lot about golf courses here in town, and he's like, well, is that a private one or a public one? And I said, Hunter, you will have no problem playing any golf course you want in Las Vegas. You're a Las Vegas Raider. Trust me, you want to go on any course, you're going to get on it.
Get the perks.
Right? Yeah, you're going to get the perks. But being out there with him, sitting down with those kids, he sat with the Rancho high school football team and talked about breakfast, but they were just talking football.
Right.
And I could see some of the kids looking at him going I'm bigger than that dude.
I know.
You're
a football player?
I can play football. Look at this guy. Yeah.
Yep. Right. But then the same thing though is he being there, it was a big deal for the kids, but also I think they understood the scope really of what the Raiders had been doing in the community, guys. And I know we talk a lot about it on this show, but to see those high school kids, and this is early morning. Rancho High School is in the inner city here in Las Vegas, and it is in North Las Vegas technically. But to see them out there, and even the staff was so excited to be there, for him to be there, and for it to be his first event in Las Vegas. Just a great thing that team brings to the community.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you very much. All right, but that wasn't it. That wasn't it, guys. There was also it's Nevada Reading Week. My kids are voracious readers. They read all the time, and sometimes they teach me new words. But they Nevada Reading Week to promote reading in the schools here in Las Vegas and throughout the state. And as a part of that, the Raiders were also out. And Jay Schrader, our good friend of the show, Jay Schrader, was out reading to kids at a local elementary school. And our own David Stepanian has this report.
Playing in the NFL is a big stage, but positively affecting the life of a child is arguably an even bigger stage. That's why the Raiders decided to take part in Nevada Reading Week. The team sent out former QB Jay Schrader and wide receiver Nate McCollum to read a Dr. Seuss novel to first graders. Schrader, who's a grandfather himself, knows the importance of these things to young ones.
It's funny because, when you ask them questions and they say their parents watch, that's about what it is, and I have grandkids at that age, and It's like one thing. It's like, oh, the football game's on, unless they're really into it and all that. But I just think it makes an impact because it exposes them to something different. They can be something else. And whether it's football, basketball, baseball, playing soccer, being a scientist, get them involved, get them going, get their minds to turn.
The look of joy was on all the kids' faces as Rusher, the team's mascot, high-fived everyone in the class. Schrader even stressed the importance of reading and staying in school for their bright futures. All the kids wore eye black with Raiders logos on them and were given the chance to ask the players questions, which ranged from talking about the Super Bowl, their careers, or just how cool it was to have actual players come talk to them. It was a sentiment shared by their teachers, Patina Miller and Melissa Solstra.
Oh, I was so excited. So excited. I love sports, and to have a professional, we're getting a team here. That's amazing. I was so excited. And when I told my kids, they literally jumped. They were just like, this is the best day ever. It's going to be amazing. So it was awesome.
I couldn't even believe it. I think I was more excited than the kids. It's just so crazy. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so it was really fantastic.
Nevada Reading Week happens every year during the week of Dr. Seuss's birthday. This was the Silver and Black's second year contributing to the event. Reading Week encourages kids to find a book they love and talk about it with their class. Guys, what are some of your favorite books? Kelly, the sports book doesn't count. For Silver and Black today, I'm David Stepanian.
Stepanian gets the Kelly dig in. Oh my goodness! All right,
he's not wrong.
We're gonna take a break. When we come back, I will compose myself, and we'll be joined by Jim Jacks. Our younger Raider fans, the newer breed, have they lost their way? Are they maybe thinking they're a little smarter than they are? We'll talk about that next here on the Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada. Price and participation may vary for a limited time only.
CBS Sports Radio.
Hey, this is Rodney Hudson. You're listening to Silver and Black today.
All right. The anchor brings us back in. Yes. Yes. Chaz from 3. Yes. Okay. enough of my Marv Albert impersonation. I am not wearing garter belt. We're back here, Silver and Black, today on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Joining us now out on the Newsmaker line is our good friend of the show, and we're glad to have him back, Jim Jacks. He's the owner of Jim Jacks Media Network, which is host to several podcasts relating to football, sports, and celebrities. Their social media reaches between 15 and 20 million people per week, which is huge, guys. Jim's built just an amazing thing over there. He's the host of the Forum Celebrity Podcast with Florence Carmela and of the Moonlight Raiders podcast as well. You can follow him on Twitter at Jim Jacks Media, and the same handle, Jim Jacks Media, on Instagram as well. We go up to Northern California. Jim, how you doing this morning, buddy?
Wow, what an intro. That was fantastic. I'm doing great.
Yeah, I try every once in a while. But no, thank you. Thanks for joining myself, Kelly, and Chaz here on the show. The reason we wanted to talk to you today, and of course, we all follow you on Twitter and we watch what you're saying. And being a Raiders fan, you clearly are close to the fan base. And you tweeted something out that I think some people might take the wrong way, but I really, from the perspective of following the Raiders and covering them and seeing the fan base, which I still think is the best fan base in all of sports, is that some fans are caught up in this kind of social media cycle where they look at stats and they look at certain things. And you kind of tweeted that out saying, hey, look, these fans, you didn't say younger, but I'm just going to say newer.
Nope.
I'm going to say newer because it doesn't matter what age you are. Newer fans sort of have like maybe some sort of disconnect with some reality and maybe buy too much into what they're seeing in social. Tell me a little bit about the point, about the tweet, and what you were trying to say.
You wrote an article, and there's been studies the last 15 years about homerism and haters on teams and just the mentality of the NFL fan and fan in general. And it's really fascinating. I've studied it, and it has to do a lot with the relationships, and we can take it back to even Freudism. It's amazing how fans have changed, and I think what's changed it, and it's changed society, is social media and podcasting. Everyone can do a podcast now, and I'm a huge podcast guy. I listen to 15 to 20 a week. I don't really watch TV too much other than sports, but what's happened is that opinion now is greater than facts. If you just read the story about the guy that died, and God rest his soul, but he died in a rocket going in space because he said he wanted to get pictures to prove the world was flat.
Yes.
Well, we've been getting pictures for 60 years from NASA and from Russia showing that the world is round. But to him, in his biased opinion, it's flat. So he had to prove it himself. And I think that's what's happened to fans here. They use analytics. They use all these things. They get a podcast. They get a little bit of a following, kind of gets their head a little bit, and it doesn't matter how old you are. But you start getting kind of, and then a couple of your fans will say they're the voice of the Raiders, and they'll bring up things. This player's bad. This player's good. And it just gets so crazy that suddenly, it's kind of like you see it in politics. If you're a Democrat or Republican, you blindly back a Democrat or a Republican. You don't care what the facts are. You don't care what the truth is. You're saying, is this guy a part of my political party?
Yes.
Okay, I'll blindly defend him.
Well, and Jim,
the same thing is happening with football.
Yeah, and Jim, it's funny you say that too, because we don't talk a lot about it on there, but I mention it occasionally, which is, we get a wide audience from all over the country because we can, as you know, from having your own media network with podcasts, you can see the analytics of where people are listening to you from. So we get people from all over, a lot of them from California, obviously with the Raiders history there. But I'm always struck by people who they mean it as kind of like an insult. I don't take it that way, but they mean it as an insult to say, well, you guys aren't Raiders fans. I'm going to go watch these guys because they tell it like it is. And that's because we have Chaz in here and Kelly, who are actually lifelong Raider fans, but when they're on the air, they want to be objective. So they look at both sides. They look at both sides of the story. And what I'm finding is the consumer. So forget even the people putting out the content, because there's a lot of great content producers. But the people who consume the content, like you said with politics, they just want to hear what they already hear in their head. And I think there's a danger in that. And also, I don't think you grow as a fan. unless you hear perspectives from other people. Now, you might still you might still disagree with them, but to hear the other point of view helps you strengthen your point, or it might even change your mind.
You are totally right. I'm not going to give the letters of the station, but they're kind of my mentors, and they're the number 4 sports talk show in the country. And they had a whole entire day where they talked about the evolution of the fan. And you look at Bill King. Bill King used to destroy the Raiders and this was when they were winning Super Bowls. Yeah. And he would destroy them if they didn't win good or win good enough, or if there's a bad play. He did the same thing with the Warriors. That couldn't work in today's world. You look at a lot of the announcers today, they're homers. I listened to the Miami Heat when they won their championship, their first championship. I had no idea what happened because the last 15 seconds of the game, the announcer just literally cheered, and all the fans were saying this was an amazing call. I had no idea who won.
Yeah.
So this is the thing, is that the fan wants to hear what they want to hear. If I'm a Raider podcaster and I tell you every year they're going to win the Super Bowl, and I'm wrong 90% of the time, personally, I tell all our podcasters, I don't care what your take is. Be professional, always listen to the fans, but be right. And if you're wrong 80, 90% of the time, I don't want you on the podcast team, because you have to be right most of the time. No one's right all the time.
Right.
But you have to be right most of the time. And this is the problem that I have. Would you go to a restaurant if 90% of the time the food's bad? No, but they'll listen to podcasts who are wrong 90% of the time. Why? Because they tell them what they want to hear.
Right.
And that's the problem.
We're speaking to Jim Jacks again from the Jim Jacks Media Network.
Hey, Jim, it's Chaz. You're right about that. The one thing I can't stand is homers. I won't even listen to those guys on the radio or even on TV. Sometimes you get in and it's like, come on, you guys. But let's just switch gears a little bit and give us maybe your impression of the team, the state of the Raiders as it is now and the direction they're going. Are you happy with that, or what are your feelings?
I like the direction. Let's first go back at the move. And before I was born, our family was going to the games in 1960 when my dad was just a kid. So I think going back to that, and I wanted to go back to that, I think Oakland fans are missing the boat. You shouldn't say they're not real fans. Our relationship with the team was different because the players didn't make any money, and they usually worked jobs. So right. My dad knew plenty of the Raiders. He bought insurance from one. So we had a different relationship. It was kind of a familial relationship, but that doesn't mean our relationship is better than other people's. So that I wanted to kind of talk to Oakland fans and to other fans about that. Now, going to the state of the Raiders, I think they're on the right track. I love what the 49ers did. Mm-hmm. I think that with the rules today being so easy, I don't care if you have the Soul Patrol back there. You have to have a pass rush. And if you cannot get a pass rush to beat the Chiefs, you got to have a 4-man pass rush that can get to the quarterback without blitzing. That's how you beat the Chiefs. The 49ers did that for a while, but to the Chiefs' credit, they changed some of their blocking schemes, and they protected Mahomes in the last part of the game for most of the last quarter. I think the Raiders I'm not sold on their defensive line, and I definitely think they need to be an upgrade on the linebacker. I like what's going on. I'm not a Gruden offense fan. I don't like the dink and dunk. I want the ball going downfield, and I think that's what changed Andy Reid. If you remember, Andy Reid was a total safe dink and dunk offensive coordinator. That's what he wanted. With Mahomes, he realized, I got a guy who can throw 80 yards. Let's do this. I got
to unleash it.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, what happened? You win a Super Bowl. Your defense plays great. You win a Super Bowl. So I think that's the only thing I'm worried about offensively. Love Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah, good
Best
kid.
pick they've done in years. That was an amazing pick. Burlsworth Trophy Award winner, walk-on, great player. So I think they're doing good things. Upgrade the talent. I would not pick a wide receiver in the first round. I think there's a lot of wide receivers in this draft. It's a huge draft, and I'm an Oklahoma Sooner fan. But if you look at the history of Oklahoma wide receivers, name all of them that are all-time greats in the pros.
Yeah,
and they've had some amazing offenses.
Well,
I love CD, but I would I would get a linebacker in the first round. Simmons obviously is what everyone's drooling over, but there's a lot of great talent.
Yeah, he'll be gone. He'll be gone.
I don't believe in. Yeah,
but no, I believe in the defense. You got to have the offense to score. It's an offensive league now, but you still need to build. They need to build that linebacking core. And Bill and Jim, before I let you go too, I just want to say to your point about the relocation and all of that. I think that there's going to be some fans who will continue to be bitter about it, and I get it to a certain point.
Sure.
When they're bitter about Las Vegas, and we're seeing some of that recently too, kind of pop up again with it just being so. I think seeing the stadium getting completed and all that is that the people in Los Angeles had the Raiders too and lost them too. There's a whole nother fan base in LA, and so it's interesting how people are claiming it for one side and the other, and not considering that there's a lot of people in Raider Nation who lost their team too in Los Angeles as well. So it's an interesting thing, but we always appreciate you and your thought process and talking about it, because I think it's a good discussion, and hopefully we start to see some more balance in the discussion, even amongst those who love the team and want the team to do well. So Jim Jacks, thanks again, man. We'll have you on again real soon.
All right, take care, everybody. I hope you guys have a great weekend.
All right, you too, my friend. Take care. All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we'll close out hour number 1. Coming up, top of hour number 2, the Mad Bomber will be with us, and we'll tell you how he got that name. Daryle Lamonica. That's right. Coming up.
Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
The Fan Shield 500. NASCAR this morning at 11:30 on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gulbransen.
Yes, coronavirus-free, Scott Gulbransen.
As far as you know.
Chaz is like over there counting his money to go get all the toilet paper.
As far as you know, you're virus-free.
Wait, let me show that on the video. If you're watching the video, you'll see Chaz. Yeah, I don't think your shirt's going to help, dude. Then you got to smell yourself, too.
I got 2 shirts.
You got 2 shirts.
That should do it.
I'm not worried about the coronavirus because I've done worse things to myself, by myself. I mean, to myself. I'm fine. Yeah.
It's a little
I've made it this far with the stuff that I've done. I'm not scared of a cold.
Right.
Well, thanks to Jim Jackson. Interesting discussion. I mean, I think that's the one thing too that I don't know. Not everybody. There's a lot. Again, there's a lot of great shows, a lot of great podcasts that cover the Raiders that come from different points of view, and I respect all of them. I really do.
Yeah.
They're not all my cup of tea. They don't all agree with my perspective on things, but we try to do things a little different. We try to stay down the middle. We're commercial radio too, so it's a different
even being
play.
a fan, it's hard for me to listen to Homer shows, fanboy shows. It's just like, I want information. I do want more positives about my team, of course, but I just can't listen. Oh, this is great, that's great, this guy's great, this is great. The Raiders are the only fan base that's increased over all these years
of losing,
and they haven't been very successful on the field. So give the Raiders credit for that. But I can't listen when I'm listening to the radio and it's a homer like he was talking about. You're watching a basketball game and they're just all about their team and they don't tell you anything about the other team. It's hard to listen to those kind of things.
It's like growing up in Indiana with WGN all the time.
Mm-hmm. Being a Raider fan in the Midwest had to be hard.
Hawk Harrelson was the worst for the White Sox. Because he
put it on the board.
Yes.
Well, I didn't mind that. That was because we use that all the time.
The good guys.
Stuff.
He would say the good guys.
Not only that, but I mean, any ball or strike would be. Oh, that's it.
Right.
Then you had the polar opposite on. Cubs with Harry Carey. He'd be talking about going out to bars last night in the fourth
even watching
inning.
the game.
Grab on, yay!
By the way, an unassisted triple play. So, anyways, last night
we were walking down Rush Street last
Old
night
style.
after a couple Budweisers, a single to third.
I'm a Cub fan and a Bud man. I remember those commercials; those were funny. But no, I mean, there's great fan podcasts and fan videos and channels and websites out there. And I think that the fan perspective, that's what's so great about the democratization of media these days, is fans have a voice. I love that. I think that's awesome. I think though that yes, to Jim's point, some fans get so entrenched in their own point of view, they don't listen to other points of view. Mm-hmm. And that's some of the feedback we get because we tend to be down the middle on everything. We get a lot of feedback. Oh, you guys suck. I'm going to go listen to, this guy who's got an obscure channel on YouTube who does it from like a basement in Afghanistan, and I'm going to listen to him because he tells me what I say. And that's fine. Go. I don't have a problem with that. If you don't like somebody else's show or our show or a different show, that's cool. Like, I'm totally fine with that. You'll find what you want.
I definitely want more pro Raider content, because I am a fan, but I can't handle it when it's just like two knuckleheads in the basement over the top, just giggling, dang Raiders the whole time. Like, come on, give me some information, give me some news, give me some ideas, some thoughts.
Yeah.
Let's go from there.
I want the Raiders to give me reason to have more pro Raider content.
There you go.
Exactly.
Well, we're going to end the first hour. I'm really excited. I'm so excited. Wanted to talk to this guy for a long time. Raider great Daryle Lamonica, the Mad Bomber, of course. Early Raiders history is up next, especially for you new Raider fans. You are welcome, despite some that don't want to welcome you. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. The Nets' Jacques Vaughn will make his interim coaching debut at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific against the Bulls. It comes after Brooklyn parted ways with Coach Kenny Atkinson after 3+ seasons. Thunder go for their third straight win as they visit the Celtics at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. Bucks will try to bounce back from that Friday defeat in L.A. when they take on the Suns in Phoenix. Also, the Rockets look to avoid a fourth straight defeat as they return home for the Magic. Toronto's Fred VanVleet and Marc Gasol both listed as questionable for the Raptors game against the Kings. College hoops with 5th-ranked San Diego State losing to Utah State in the Mountain West title game last night. That means there will be one less at-large bid for someone else. For the Aztecs, specifically KJ Fegan, it sounds like it's going to be a long wait until Selection Sunday.
I think I speak for everybody when I feel like that shot and us taking this loss just took all the life out of us today. I wanted to cut down nets. We all wanted to cut down nets, and it was an accomplishment of ours. We weren't looking forward to the NCAA tournament. We were looking at the task at hand, and we didn't get the job done.
Other programs need to take care of business in their regular season finales today. Just underway, it is 25th-ranked Michigan visiting number 9 Maryland. Houston is home for Memphis. At 4:30 Eastern, Michigan State plays host to Ohio State. Iowa visits Illinois. 1 Eastern, other title games going on. The Big South final between Winthrop and Hampton. Bradley and Valparaiso face off in the Missouri Valley final. And the Atlantic Sun title game between Liberty and Lipscomb. In the NFL, with the deadline to apply the franchise tag coming up on Thursday, the Dallas Morning News reports the Cowboys' latest offer to quarterback Dak Prescott includes $33 million annually, with $105 million guaranteed. Golf, Terrell Hatton with a 2-shot lead at 6 under, heading into the final round of the Arnold Palmer Invitational. He'll tee off just before 2 p.m. Eastern. This is Justin Shackle.
Jim Rome here. The biggest names in sports. Join me in the jungle weekdays, noon Eastern and 9 Pacific. I will see you then.
We've got your Raiders covered.
Knock on wood if you're with me.
It's Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140. And now, here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas, the new capital of your Raider Nation. That's right, the Las Vegas Raiders. And part of what we like to do, and I've really for a long time, because of my affinity for Notre Dame football, because of my Italian heritage on the one side of my family, I've wanted for the longest time to interview who we're going to talk to next on the Newsmaker line, and that is the Mad Bomber. That is Raiders great quarterback Daryle Lamonica, who's going to join us just to give you guys, especially for younger fans who maybe are new to the Raider Nation, don't know a lot about Raider history, or you're learning about Raider history. You look at Daryle Lamonica, drafted by the NFL and the AFL in 1963. In the NFL, drafted by the Packers, and in the AFL, drafted by the Buffalo Bills. Then traded later to the Raiders. 2-time Pro Bowler, 3-time AFL champion, 3-time AFL All-Star, 2-time First Team All-AFL, 2-time AFL Most Valuable Player Award in 67 and the year I was born, 69. AFL Passing Yards Leader in 69. 2-time AFL Passing Touchdown Leader. And he was also the AFL Rushing Touchdowns co-leader in 1964. And that is one Mr. Daryle Lamonica. Daryle, thanks for joining us here on the Silver and Black today.
My pleasure, Scott.
It's awesome to have you here, and as someone who, when I was very young, I actually got to see you play and watch you play, and so very, very cool for me. But I want to start, a lot of people know with Al Davis, and we'll get into some Al Davis stories soon, but with Al Davis and you and the vertical game that he loved, the Mad Bomber nickname came to you, but it came to you from Howard Cosell, correct?
That it did, Scott. I don't know, on Monday night I'd thrown a bunch of touchdown passes, and, Howard come up with this on national TV. He says he's the Mad Bomber. I said, well, that's a kind of a crazy name and everything. But the very next week, we're playing at home, and I get under center, and I look out, and I make contact with the left corner. And he backed up 2 steps. And I go, ooh, I like that. So
I was trying to take advantage of it as best I could after that, but it's a name that stuck, and I live with it today.
You do, and that's the funny thing about nicknames too, Daryle, is that you don't get to choose them all the time, and so I know for players sometimes it's not what they like, but in your case it actually fit really well, especially with that early that time with the Raiders and in that era when you guys were playing, but leading up to this, of course, you're from the Central Valley, from Clovis, from Fresno, California, and growing up there, unlike a lot of kids, and I have kids, I have 5 total, I have 3 young boys still at home. And the thing that bothers me most about this is that a lot of kids get locked into only one sport. You were a multi-sport star at Clovis High School coming out of there before you went to Notre Dame. And in fact, you played in the first ever Little League World Series in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Did you not?
I did, and that was one of my first real big sports thrill. And baseball and football was my strongest sports, and I was always going to be a professional baseball player, no doubt about that. I turned down a $50,000 bonus plus contract with the Chicago Cubs in 1959 too, out of high school, but decided to go on to Notre Dame and get my college education, and I'm glad I did that too. But yeah, I still have a lot of good memories of those young days.
Oh yeah, and you lettered in 4 sports in high school, track, football, basketball as well, and baseball. So you were there, and I know Clovis, the football field is named after you, correct? At Clovis High School.
That's right. Yes, I'm very proud, and that's makes me feel really good inside.
That's awesome. That is great. Now you came out of Clovis High School, and you go to Notre Dame, and as you and I talked about the other day, the Notre Dame was not at the top of the heap at that time when you played there, but you came into the 1962 East-West Shrine game, and you were the most valuable player, and a couple people noticed you there. One was Vince Lombardi, correct?
Yeah, that's true, but I was drafted by Vince Lombardi, and I remember we were at a banquet, and he says, "Daryle, I would like to ask you a personal question." I said, "Sure, Coach." He says, "How come you didn't sign with us out of college?" I says, "Well, your scout got in touch with me, said you'd be back with me in a few days, and 3 or 4 weeks went by, and you never called. I just assumed you didn't want it, so I signed with the Buffalo Bills before I went and played in the All-Star game." And he says, "I knew it." He says, "Bart got hurt this year." He says, "You'd have been my starting quarterback." And I looked at him, and he turned and started talking to the guy next to him, and that's one of the best compliments I've ever had.
Yeah, I mean, coming from the great Vince Lombardi, absolutely. And the fact that he wanted to draft you is amazing, and it talks to how he was impressed with your talent. Of course, like you said, you signed with the Bills. Then in 1967, you're traded to the Raiders with Glenn Bass for Art Powell and another Fresno native Tom Flores. And of course, you were with the Raiders until 1974. And that year, you guys went on to go 13-1 in the regular season, won the division title with you as the starting quarterback. AFL title game, you beat the Oilers 40-7 before losing to the Packers in the Super Bowl. How was that transition for you, going from the team that drafted you and showed a lot of faith in you early on in the Bills to then coming over to Al Davis and the Raiders on the West Coast?
Well, you work hard. We never know, what the future holds for us. And, we were very successful, won 2 championships in Buffalo. And I was ready to be a starting quarterback. And in fact, the night before I was traded, I was talking to Ralph Wilson Jr. and Sr., and they said, "You're going to come back, be our starting quarterback and everything." I was so pumped up when I hung the phone up, I could run through a brick wall. 8 hours later, I was traded to the Raiders.
Oh, my goodness.
And I was in a shock. I had to call the Fresno Bee, my hometown paper, to find out if it was true, and it is. And then I got home, and Al Davis had called, and I met with him the next day in the coaching staff. And first thing I did, I looked at the Raiders' schedule. It says the Buffalo Bills, the 3rd league game in Buffalo. And I started preparing, that day for that one game. And as luck would have it, we go back, and I had a pretty good day, and we beat them, I think, 43-6. And so, but it gave me an opportunity to be a starting quarterback, and I played with some great athletes with the Bills, and the Raiders had some great athletes, and I was able to be a pretty good starter for 7 years with the Raiders. And so it was special.
Yeah, absolutely. And a great run there. And clearly, again, we're speaking to Raiders great Daryle Lamonica, the Mad Bombers, with us on CBS Sports Radio 1140 here in Las Vegas. And Daryle, I know that, that time that you spent with the Raiders, talk a little bit about your relationship with Al Davis and what it was like for you, because a lot of players that we've talked to were later era and they knew the older Al. But talk about that time in the 60s when the AFL and the NFL were going to eventually come together and merge. How was it being around Al Davis? What was your experience with him as both general manager and just a guy being around?
Well, Al Davis, I think, had one of the best minds in football ever. He was a real student of the game, and you got to understand Al Davis's philosophy. After a game, he would come up to me after every game. Say, "What's the most important stats you had today?" And I'd look at him and say, "No interceptions and no fumbles." Al Davis preached that to us. No interceptions and no fumbles, because the team had the best turnover ratio, won 93% of the time.
Wow.
That's a real big number. So, but most people ask you, "Gee, did you win?" They don't ask you how many touchdowns you throw or how many yards you throw for. And that's what made the Raiders so special. It was always about us and we. There was never I or me's or you did this, he did that. It was we did this, and we did it together. And that's what made the Raiders all the years that at least I played with them so special, because we didn't care if the offense did it, the defense won, or special teams. All we cared about, did we win? And that was Al Davis's philosophy, and that's why we were so successful.
Hey, Daryle, it's Chaz. I feel you have such an intelligent football mind. It's a shame that you never got into coaching.
Well, I probably did. I love the game of football. I got a good mind for it. I wanted to move back to Fresno after I retired and raise my family here.
Right.
And I raised my son here in Fresno, and he went on and went to Fresno State on a golf scholarship and did very well. But that's always a question mark of what I could have done, in football. But I think that have been successful because the game's never changed.
Right.
Football's just a game of angles. You got an interception angle and a reception angle, and that never changes. And you can only put 11 guys on the field, and you can only attack it with 11. So there's a field so 53 and a third yards wide and 100 yards long. So it's just coach's philosophy. And back then, Al Davis' philosophy was you threw completed one pass in 3 attempts for 15 yards versus 3 5-yarders. And both worked, but that was our philosophy, and I fit right into that, and I was very fortunate to have an opportunity to play for the Raiders.
Absolutely. Again, we're speaking to the Mad Bomber, Daryle Lamonica, Raider great quarterback, of course. And we're very, very fortunate as Daryle's agreed to stay with us through the break and into the next segment where we'll finish up with him before he probably goes out and does some fishing today, right, Daryle?
Well, I wish I was fishing today.
No.
I got a family entity I got to be at. So
okay, well, we'll get you. We're gonna come back. We're gonna talk to Daryle about what is it with Fresno and quarterbacks with the Raiders. We'll ask him now. We'll also ask him a little bit about the modern game today and how it's changed. We appreciate him spending the time with us. So stick there. We'll be back with Daryle Lamonica right after the break here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Get started today at StitchFix.com. Stitch Fix, personal styling for everybody.
The Dodgers, the Padres, spring training tomorrow afternoon at 12:30 on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140, where we're joined by the great Daryle Lamonica. That's right, the Mad Bomber, former Raiders quarterback, Notre Dame quarterback, Buffalo Bills quarterback, you name it. We're just excited to be joined by him to talk football with Daryle Lamonica from his home in Fresno today. And Daryle, before we move on to some conversation about the Raiders today, about the game of football today, one of the things that I want to ask you about and get your perspective on, and I have a lot of fans in our social media channels asking us questions as we're talking to you, is around the Heidi Game. Talk about, the Heidi Game for younger viewers and fans. It's hard for them to really wrap their heads around what it was like back in the day when we watched TV and things. You didn't have 1,000 channels. You didn't have VCRs. You didn't have DVRs. You didn't have the internet. So like when a game wasn't on, you didn't get to see it. You got to hear it on the radio maybe, and that was it. But being part of one of the NFL's most infamous and famous games where the Raiders, you guys came back in unbelievable fashion against the Jets. Talk about the Heidi Game and how much do you get asked about it?
Well, that's was a great game for us. The Jets, Joe Namath and I, went head to head a lot of times, and threw for a lot of yardage and stuff. But we were playing the Jets at home, and the score went back and forth, and got down to like 3 minutes. They kicked a field goal, 3 or 4 minutes left in the game, and I was able to, on the next series, I was able to hit Charlie Smith on a long touchdown pass down the hash mark, and it was called back because one of my wide receivers was in motion. And I can remember Johnny Sample come up. He was a left corner. He come up and patted me on the rear end. He says, "Nice pass, Lamonica. Better luck next year." Well, that fired my Irish temper up just a little bit. I said, "Look, the game's not over with yet." And as luck would have it, we punted the ball. Our defense holds 3 and out. I get the ball back with like a minute, 25 seconds. And so I said, Charlie, I says, do a deep crossing pattern. Their middle linebacker was out of the game, and I was able to hit Charlie on a deep crossing pattern. He took it up the right sideline for like a 65-yard touchdown pass. And we kick off. They fumble the ball. Preston Huber recovers it in the end zone, and we score another touchdown. Yeah. So in a matter of like 7-8 seconds, we score 2 touchdown passes. And now we have no idea. We've been taken off of national TV, and the movie Heidi was put on. But that's kind of the way it ended up, and I did. I found Johnny going up the tunnel, and I just had to go by and pat him on the backside and say, "Hey, I told you the game went over with you." So it's a game that went down, and infamy. Namath and I were always involved because we love throwing the ball down the field, and we love to compete.
Hey, Daryle, it's Chaz again. So I want to switch gears and kind of bring it up to your assessment of the team and how we're going now. I know you're there in Fresno, and so you probably seen more of Derek Carr than most. Do you think that he's the quarterback that can take this team to the promised land?
Yeah, I think Derek has a lot of talent. As a quarterback now, I'd like to say you win championship with offense. You don't. You win championships with defense. You look at your best defensive teams, they go to the playoffs and they go to the Super Bowls almost every year. And Derek has a lot of talent. It's a wide-open offense. Gruden doesn't throw the ball down the field as much as I'd like to see him do that. But if your teams can't score on your defense, you got a good chance of winning. But Derek Carr is I think, an excellent quarterback. He throws the ball. He's got all the talent. He can run. And so it's there again, we go back, it's us and we.
Right.
And you win it with defense.
So, okay, you brought up Gruden. How would you evaluate Coach's performance so far in his second stint here?
Well, I think you have to evaluate the talent that you have, the players that you have. I don't know. I haven't met all the coaches and don't know their philosophy on down and distance. And you got to utilize the guys that you think can do the job for you. And but the game to me is still very simple. The yards have never changed. You got to score just one more than your opponent. And Al Davis had the right idea. It's that turnover ratio, that no fumbles, no interceptions. And you look at that and you win 93% of the time. That's a number you got to really, really look at. But we got a lot of great speed on the outside, young talent, and they keep improving. And I can remember when Cliff Branch came up. My first long pass I threw to him, I said, "Ooh!" I overthrew him. He had to stop and catch the football.
That's awesome.
So he changed the whole game around. And the Raiders have more than one receiver that have great speed, and offense can score some points.
Yep.
We got to score more points, but not turn the ball over. That's I think the most important thing. And I think the Raiders have all the talent, and now we're moving to Las Vegas. We'll get an opportunity to show that talent off.
Yes, they will, in a brand new stadium for the first time. And again, we're speaking to Raider great quarterback Daryle Lamonica, joining us from his home in Fresno. And Daryle, I think that's one of the things when you look at the modern game today and how it's changed. Primarily, athletes change over time. There's no question. Speed and all these other things. And it started with Cliff, who we unfortunately lost earlier at the end of last year, I should say. But when you look at the game today, the way the NFL has structured the rules, it clearly favors the offense. To your point about needing defense to win championships, at the same time now, because cornerbacks can't bump and run, the Raider great Mike Haynes, a Hall of Famer, I talked to him about it, and he said, man, it would be different today playing because of the way the rules are. For you as a quarterback, looking at it and you see young quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, other guys who have been through the league in the last 10 or so years. Talk about that evolution of the game on offense and what it would be like for you, a guy who liked to go vertical, what it would be like for you to play today against teams today with these rules.
Well, I'd like to play today with the rules of quarterback. You can't even hit a quarterback. You can't hit him with the shoulder pads up or from the knees down. He wears a flak jacket. You can intentionally ground the ball. Really, nobody can really lay a hand on the quarterback now.
Absolutely.
And, you can play 15 years with no problem, and stuff. But, it gets down back down to the players. I really believe that comes from within the coaching staff. To me, coaches and players, I want the input from my players. I want to know what you did. If you beat a guy in college, it means, you controlled him in college. Why can't you control him in the pros? There's no difference. So you start everybody equal, and you get everybody's input. And then you put your down and distance together. See, down and distance is a football game. You got, third and short, third and long. You got a couple passes, a couple runs. You can move right on down the field. And every conceivable situation that you can face in a game is played, and that's what you work on. You don't have 80, 90 plays of the same play. You only have 70, 75 plays a game that you have, and you might only use 17 plays that you have. So it's not a matter that your playbook's so big the players can't remember all the plays. I want to take advantage of, and that's the Raiders' philosophy when I played. We could move our receivers around. I'd put 2 and 3 wide receivers on the same side, and you want to see who was going to cover them. All you're trying to do is be one-on-one, and you're trying to – this is Al Davis' philosophy, too. All he wanted to make is 8 or 9 big plays a game.
Yep.
And, the rest of the time, run as much time as you can off the clock. And if you do that and you don't have those interceptions and fumbles, you win 93% of the time. And that's how simple the game is. We try to complicate it, I think, and coaches try to complicate it. You just have to use the talent that you have and, use it to your best advantage.
Yeah, absolutely.
There again, you win with defense. And as an old quarterback, that's tough to say.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And Daryle, we got just a couple minutes left with you. And again, thank you for being so generous with your time on this Sunday. But we also know a lot of people like to know what you're up to. We do know from recent past that you've hosted TV shows around fishing and hunting, and I know you still do a lot of that on your time. But tell everybody what you're up to and what you spend your days doing now up in Fresno.
Well, I retired here. I want to raise my family right now, and right now I'm really enjoying my grandkids. I got a granddaughter that's 11, and I got a little grandson that's 3, and we're waiting any minute now to have another grandson that's going to be here.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Any day now. So we're on countdown right now. So we're looking forward to another little quarterback in the Lamonica family. And, that's what's special for me. I've got a great family. I'm grandpa, and I think that's what I'm most proud of right now, that I'm watching my grandkids grow up. And now with maybe 2 little quarterbacks in the system, that'll even be more exciting. And so, yes, I was born and raised on a farm here in Fresno, peaches and grapes. So Dad taught me what work was all about well before the sun come up to well after it went down.
Oh, yeah.
And I do. I enjoy the outdoors, hunting and fishing. And I've been spending a lot of time in my bass boat fishing the last couple months, and so I'm very content with where I'm at, and I still like to watch those football games on the weekend, though.
Well, that's great, and not bad for a farm kid from Fresno, what you're able to accomplish in your career, and since obviously raising a beautiful and flourishing family. And we certainly appreciate you updating Raider Nation where you're at, and then we hope to see you up at Alumni Weekend, and then we hope to see you out here at a game in Las Vegas when that new stadium opens.
Well, I can't wait to get there. The Raiders, we're going to do well. Yep. Yeah. I think we're going to surprise a lot of people, and maybe we can bring that world title to Vegas.
All right, I would that would be awesome, and would love to see number 3 jogging out there, and hopefully they do some sort of ring of honor or something. Obviously, the Raiders don't retire numbers, but we would love to see up there. Daryle Lamonica, the Mad Bomber, has been our guest. Daryle, thanks again. We hope to talk to you again real soon.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Daryle.
All right, Daryle Lamonica, just a great interview. We're going to step aside when we come back. We go from the Mad Bomber to the Carpet Bomber.
WilliamHill.us. That's WilliamHill.us.
CBS Sports Radio.
This is Cliff Branch, formerly of the Oakland Raiders, 3-time Super Bowl champ, 4-time Pro Bowl, and you listen to the Silver and Black Show.
Wow, from Daryle Lamonica to Cliff Branch, bringing us back in, the late, great Cliff Branch, which was, again, sad. I hate to think that he's gone. He was such a good dude.
Yep.
We had him here in the studio, got to wear a Super Bowl ring, a picture that I will cherish, and a guy who changed the game, no doubt.
And everybody we talked to, Daryle just now talking about him. You can hear him glowing when they start bringing up Cliff Branch.
Oh, of course, and how he changed the game, the vertical game in the NFL. Never was the same again.
Right.
Never was the same
Even
again.
better person
Track
off
guys.
the field than he was on.
Absolutely. Somebody who's definitely better off the air than on the air. Oh, just kidding. Poor Kelly. We're abusing Kelly today, aren't we?
I've got my moments.
You do have your moments, and we appreciate that, of course. But we now go to one of the favorite parts of the show for everybody, including myself, and that is where Kelly picks a random subject that he decides. It could be football related, it could be sports related, it could be anything related. I'm hoping it's not coronavirus related. Mr. Kelly Kreiner.
Everybody knows that person that kind of like tells a lie, but then they get so entrenched in that lie they start to believe it themselves. Sean Payton and the Saints have been lying to themselves for so long about Taysom Hill being a good football player.
Oh, the tag.
That they're supposedly putting a first round tender because they're afraid somebody else is going to go after Taysom Hill and they don't want to lose him. You've got a team that's got some minor salary cap issues in a 1-year window of one more Super Bowl run, spending $5 million on a backup quarterback who they don't trust to be their backup quarterback. We know this because when Drew Brees got hurt, and who played in those games?
Teddy.
Not Taysom Hill. So you're telling us, and the best thing ever, Sean Payton, he reminds me of Steve Young. Yeah, you know what? He does remind me of Steve Young for 2 reasons. One, he played quarterback at BYU, and both of them have 10 letters in their names. Now, while you're doing the math and adding those up to make sure that's right, I've got some more numbers for you.
Dun-da-da.
Let's talk about Taysom Hill's prolific passing numbers. Okay, he has 119 passing yards. There are more yards in a restraining order than in his career. He has
more. Wait, more. Okay, go ahead.
You get the joke, right?
I do. It's awesome.
Okay, yeah. He has just as many completions as Tom Brady has Super Bowl rings. That would be 6. His career touchdowns. Jameis Winston had more 0 interception games this year than Taysom Hill has career touchdowns. Harry and the Hendersons has more Oscars than Taysom Hill has touchdown passes. Matt Hack threw 1 more touchdown pass last year than Taysom Hill has in his career. Matt Hack is the punter for the Miami Dolphins. More people named Neil have stepped on the moon than have Taysom Hill touchdown passes.
I feel like the scene, Chaz, in Animal House where John Belushi's saying when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor.
Forget it, he's rolling.
He's rolling, yes. Keep going, Kelly.
Taysom Hill had more season-ending injuries in college than he has career touchdowns. He had 4. He has 3 touchdowns. And my favorite one, I've seen Haley's Comet more often, and I've seen Haley's Comet more often, and I've seen it sooner than I've seen a Taysom Hill touchdown pass. But this is the guy you're putting a first-round tender on because you're afraid somebody's going to steal him.
Well, because John Gruden was going to steal him to replace Derek Carr. Didn't you know that?
John Gruden's stealing everybody to replace Derek Carr. And guess what? When John Gruden gets that guy that eventually replaces Carr, he's going to look to replace that guy too.
Yep, immediately.
John Gruden's that married guy that looks at every woman that walks by. He's not going to cheat.
Oh.
He's not going to cheat, but he ain't going to stop looking.
He's going to flirt.
He's a window shopper.
Well, that was definitely one of the more epic Kelly's corners. I mean, and this will be a separate video up on YouTube, by the way, because it's that good.
I'm not done.
Okay. Part 2. Get your hot dog, your intermission, and we begin part 2.
They gave him the Swiss Army knife nickname. which the Swiss Army knife of football, which, I mean, that's the dumbest thing ever. But then I was like, no, that actually fits Taysom Hill. Because, yeah, Taysom Hill does a little bit of everything, like a Swiss Army knife, but also like a Swiss Army knife. Every single thing that's on there, it doesn't work very well, and it's easily replaced by the actual thing that you can use. You know those little scissors on a Swiss Army knife?
Oh,
they don't cut very well.
They
Do
don't.
you know how easy it is to find scissors? They're everywhere. You know the little wine cork that's on there? You know how hard it is to open a bottle of wine with a Swiss Army knife? It's pretty simple with an actual wine cork. You know, the knives that are on there, oh yeah, you can cut something, barely. Do you know how easy it is to find a knife that will actually cut something? Yeah. I mean, think about it. Everything you have on there, oh, it's handy. Cool, it's handy, but it doesn't do anything, and it's easily replaced. Just like Taysom Hill.
Are you saying that Nathan Peterman's a better quarterback than Taysom Hill?
No. Neither's Deshaun Kaiser. Guess what? Neither one of those guys should be in the NFL. Neither one of those guys is getting a first-round tender. Neither one of those guys is making $5 million.
But do you think Sean Payton did this because he thinks that there are people stupid enough?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's told himself so often this guy can be a starting quarterback. He's buying into his own BS at this point. He's lied to himself so often that it's in his mind. Hey, I might be right about this. And I got some news for you. No, you're not. If you thought he could be the next Steve Young, he would have had more than 13 pass attempts in 3 years.
Oh my gosh.
He's 6 of 13 for 119, 0 touchdowns and 1 interception.
What do you
That's
think?
an Army football game.
What do you think, Chaz?
Those are Tim Tebow numbers.
Tim Tebow threw for 300 yards and won a playoff game.
I
You
feel
know
like-
what
I feel
Taysom
like-
Hill's
I
never
think-
done?
I feel
Won
like-
a playoff game.
I think we need a breakdown on Taysom Hill from Chaz now.
No. I think that they keep him as a backup. I'm not sure what they're going to do with Bridgewater, right?
Bridgewater's gone.
Yeah, he's
so that's probably their thinking as well. We do need a backup. You know, Breeze has already said it's Saints or nothing.
Yeah, let's bring in a guy we don't trust to play quarterback.
Well, I'm guessing that Breeze, you know, he's been an Iron Man, obviously, except for last year. He's played, 20 years. I'd take him right now, maybe over Carr. I'd rather have Breeze. But
did you see that, by the way? Remember that? Kelly and I were talking about this the other day. The good writer, and some people will disagree, but the good writer Josh Dubrow up at the AP in the Bay Area has been putting out stats, kind of laying a case for why the Raiders might be replacing Derek Carr.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do a lot with stats, but some of his stuff. So he was going back and forth with people, and I'm not going to get into that piece of it, pro anti-Carr stuff.
Right.
But the one thing that I will say is that there are people out there who were arguing that with the right talent around him, Derek Carr would have been better than Drew Brees, which I think is the most ridiculous argument. I don't care how many stats you pull out of your backside.
Right.
Come on, guys.
Well, if you're just looking at,
that's not against Derek Carr. That's just come on, guys.
No, if you're looking at 2016, right, and then you just repeat that every year, and then of course you're going to have.
If you look at 2016, he's still not in the ballpark of Drew Brees.
Well, if he does that for 20 years, but like I always say, every front office is constantly evaluating the team preseason, during, after the season. There's no off time. You roll right into the combine, free agency, the draft. You're constantly looking at players and trying to upgrade the positions of need. So, as we do it, casual fans do it. You'll sit here and say, oh, this guy sucks. This guy, I'd like to replace this guy. And so right now, that's what the general manager, that's what these guys are doing. They're up there in the offices and, okay, here's plan A. We go after Drew Brees. Well, they just found out Drew Brees said, it's Saints or nothing. Okay, so cross that out. Plan B, we keep Carr. We bring in backup Mariota, something to push him. Or, plan C, we keep Carr. We draft a young guy. Okay, plan D, Tom Brady. And now, okay, let's go into Tom Brady. And so you're looking at all these, it's an ever evolving, it's extremely fluid. It never stops.
Right.
It's an evolving situation. You're always exploring all these options. New information's coming in. So you're gathering, you're processing, you're trying to, you want to, every second of every day, you're thinking, how can we make this team better?
Right. And what does stop, though, is us, because we got to take a break. When we come back, let's pick that back up, Chaz. We'll talk a little more.
Wait a minute.
And Kelly's got to get some oxygen after that Kelly's Corner. You're listening to the Silver and Black today. Don't go anywhere. We've got one more segment here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
We're in
position, we're right in the mix. We know we've underachieved this year so far, and it's a wake-up call. We need to hear the message loud and clear and turn things around and be better.
Can your Golden Knights move forward and make a playoff run?
We want to compete for the Stanley Cup, so if we want to have that opportunity, we're going to have to start playing better and start small.
Find out with us. CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Subaru Las Vegas presents One Thing. Do one thing to protect the environment. It all starts with just one thing. Now that the weather is warming up, adjust your thermostat down and replace those air filters if you haven't done so in the last 2 to 3 months. Your system will work more efficiently, your utility usage will decrease, and you'll breathe easier too. It all starts with one thing. Find tips and more at onethingus.com. What's your one thing? SubaruLasVegas.com.
You got hurt in an accident. You hired a lawyer. Now they're ignoring you.
Don't wait on your no-call, no-show lawyer.
We're Sam and Ash. Upgrade to us today.
We listen to you and are here for you.
And we will always return your calls.
But you do have to call us first. Do it now. Don't delay.
We're available day or night, 702-820-1234. 820-1234. Or visit samandash.com.
Sam and Ash, because you deserve what's right.
The Fan Shield 500. NASCAR this morning at 11:30 on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
The only way to take Silver and Black today with you is with the radio.com app. Download it today and search CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas and listen to us anytime, anywhere.
Oh boy, I'm still trying to catch my breath after Kelly's corner was epic. And we're going to roll it over. And Chaz was making some points I think are important too, I want to get to as well. But Kelly was just rolling on that one. I mean, dude, Taysom Hill, he got you going today.
I don't know why he annoys me so much. I really don't. I think it's because well, here's my problem. You, as somebody who likes watching the Saints, and like they've had 3 just horrible calls in the last 3 years, cost some playoff games. But the dumbest call I've seen is when you take out the career passing and touchdown leader, you pull him off the field for a guy who's thrown 13 passes in 3 years for 6 completions, 0 touchdowns. I want to throw something through my television, but Sean Payton gets all. He's such a genius. He's so smart. Yeah. He took one of the best quarterbacks off the field for a guy who has 6 completions in 3 years.
That one's always a head scratcher to me too.
Taysom Hill's broken more bones, and
he's running off the field, and this guy's running in. Like, wait a minute, we're rolling down the field. What do we need a gimmick right now for?
Yeah. Here's the thing. You go to the, you dance who brought you.
Mm-hmm.
Drew Brees has brought the Saints from a crap franchise, laughingstock, to a perennial Super Bowl contender.
Yeah.
How about let's let him do what he does best, which is throw the football.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a head scratcher every time I see Taysom running out there. No, I like the gimmicks, and it is a wrinkle in the game, which maybe now with all the different rules and the offenses, you see this guy, and he can run the ball, and I think he's fine as a backup quarterback. If you're trying to cut corners here and there and you're keeping him as your backup quarterback, that's fine because you've got faith that Breeze is going to be in there for the full season. But as far as bringing him in when you're on a roll, man.
Here's if I was a football coach, the one thing I would try to do was avoid something that the other team wants me to do.
Right.
If I'm saying it's like, what play should I call now? It's 1st and 10. I'm not going to punt because the other team probably wants me to punt on 1st and 10. If I have Drew Brees on my team and I pull him to bring in Taysom Hill, the other defensive coordinator is like, oh, thank God we don't have to worry about him scoring on this play.
Right.
Oh, my goodness. That was good stuff. But, that's the thing. I think you look at players today, and it's always been the case. Like the most loved player, for example, usually, especially when you start a season, if a team is struggling, it's always the backup quarterback, right? Because they look great in the preseason, and man, this player's struggling, so let's put in Joe Blow, who's going to come in and just be the biggest star. Right. But let's face it, the Kurt Warner stories of the world don't happen very often. And even when they do, again, they're very rare. So to me, this whole Taysom Hill thing, it's like, look at Taysom Hill, look at Taysom. It's good. Even if Sean Payton believes it, Kelly, you have to credit him a little bit because if he believes it and sells it so hard, somebody might believe it and bite at it.
Yeah, but here's the no. That's the thing. If he would have done a second round tender and got a second round pick for an undrafted guy who he doesn't play, that would have been great. No one's given up a first round. There's zero chance of anybody giving up a first round pick for Taysom Hill. That'd be the dumbest thing ever. So you've oversold something to the point you reap nothing from that.
That's true.
It's like buying a car at a scrapyard for $500, painting it really nice, and then putting a $10,000 price tag on it sitting in front of your yard.
You might be giving other teams a little too much credit. You're saying nobody's ever done anything dumb in the NFL.
No,
I'm sure there's been stupider transactions.
I'm saying people do things all the time.
So what if it pans
I'm saying
out?
Nobody's stupid enough to give up a first-round pick for Taysom Hill, and if they do, that franchise should be folded immediately.
Okay. That being said, I'm getting breaking news.
The Raiders have taken.
I'm getting breaking news. No one's giving up a first-round pick for a guy who is 6 for 13 for 119 and 0.
Well, speaking of the draft, since you're talking about first-round tenders and whatnot, we talked earlier about the coronavirus maybe having an impact on the draft. God forbid. But we're still talking a lot about the draft. We're getting geared up for it. The Raiders have been linked to some names over the last couple of weeks, especially the last week when it comes to free agents, because, of course, you can negotiate with free agents. Now you can pull trades. You just can't make them official to the 18th. Mm-hmm. We had a big trade with the Panthers and the Chargers on offensive linemen, swapping offensive linemen.
Yeah, somebody still needs to explain that trade to me.
I know. I can't understand it either.
There's got to be another move.
Something going on. Yeah. But then the name that I heard early in the week and we've been talking about for the Raiders is Byron Jones from the Cowboys as cornerback. That seems to be heating up. We had Trayvon Mullen tweet yesterday, say, Byron, we got you. So I don't know. That doesn't really mean anything. By the way, people think it means that he got signed already or he's going to be. But I think the Raiders clearly have the money. They need help at cornerback. They need help at linebacker. They need help on the defensive line. I think they're going to sign two big names. Jones appears to be the favorite thus far. Who else, Kelly, do you think might be a guy that the Raiders are going to target and really go after hard to improve that defense quick?
I think you're looking at one of the linebackers that's out there. And, I mean, you're picking between Littleton, Schobert, whoever, you're the one guy you want for your system. I think that's kind of the way you have to go, and you have to overpay him because the Raiders need a whole new linebacking core,
Absolutely.
And you're not going to be able to get all of that in the draft.
Yeah.
Now, it's possible, and I was looking because they have 3 third-round picks. It's possible that if a couple guys kind of slide a little bit, you could fill out your whole linebacking core with some pretty athletic guys in that third round. But the last thing you want is 3 rookie linebackers on the field at the same time.
Right. You need one veteran in there, for sure.
And I don't know if I think I might have replied to Mo or something on Twitter. I've just got this sinking feeling that I like Murray, and if they got Murray at 19, I'd be fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
I've got this sick feeling in my stomach he's going 12. They're going to pass on the wide receivers to make sure they get Murray and nobody gets him, and I think that's a huge mistake. It's just it's a Furl overdraft, and I can just see it happening.
And that's the thing too. I don't disagree that that's a possibility because if you look not only at Furl last year, but go back to Gruden's first year where I think they reached with Reggie McKenzie at the time with Miller early in the draft. So for some reason, when they love a guy, they just want to take them. Doesn't matter what it's going to do the rest of the first round, Chaz. Right? If their guy's there, they're going to take them. Right. If they love them that much, and I guess you could argue that's not a great way to do it, to Kelly's point. But at the same time, it seems to have worked out for them thus far.
Well, you see, guys, when Rod Marinelli's coming over, you see a lot of these coaches, they like to bring a guy or two with them, right? We saw it with Burfict, with Gunther, and those kind of things. So this could be a Marinelli guy. We don't know.
And that's the thing. I hate to break it to Gunther, but he's probably going to be looking for a job next year,
right?
Or he's getting demoted. He might stay and be a linebacker coach or something. But Rod Marinelli didn't come over here to be a D-line coach,
right? Smooth transition, no problem.
Well, but that's to me. I mean, last year the Raiders wouldn't have had Josh Jacobs if I had gotten my wish and they had gotten all defense in the first round last year. But I do think that there are a few players that I would take at 12. I mean, Simmons isn't going to fall there. Let's not fool ourselves. But if he did, that's one guy that I would.
Right.
And so and because of that, the idea that the receiver draft is deep, absolutely. I've said that too. Here's the issue though: when they start going, there's runs. And when the runs happen,
and no second-round picks because the runs
kills you.
The runs in the second round for wide receivers.
Okay, huge.
But yeah, you could have 30 wide receivers. 27 of them can be really good and 3 be elite. Give me the elite guy.
Yeah,
give me Judy, give me Lamb, give me Ruggs. As much as I love Chenault, as much as I like Ayuk out of ASU, there's a lot of guys in there that are really, really good and have a chance to be really good. I want the elite guy. Like I've said it several times. To me, Judy's he's my number one, and there's a little space between Lamb and Ruggs for that. He's Odell Beckham Jr. without the craziness to me. He's the best route runner I've seen in college football that I've ever watched.
Yeah. Where Ruggs, as we talked about the other day, has the best hands.
Best hands and fast as can be.
Right.
CeeDee Lamb's great after the catch. If they got any of those 3 at 12, I'm excited. But if they say they take Murray at 12 and then they end up getting they go back and God forbid they take T. Higgins, which I'm out. I'm so out on it's not even funny. Sorry, Buffalo fans, but I think Buffalo's kind of hammered in on him at this point. I don't see him he's got too much Kelvin Benjamin in there, and the fact that he tells everybody he's going to run a 4.4 at the combine, and then I can't run. I'm tired from playing in the championship game 3 weeks ago, is just a bad look in my opinion.
I think you're missing the best receiver in the draft. KJ Osborne from Miami. Mr. Osborne from Miami.
I was going to say the guy from Miami. Yeah. You might get to see him actually play out here in Las Vegas because when
the XFL is
when he doesn't get drafted, he might work at a show.
Oh, nice!
Oh my goodness,
Circus Soleil.
Sorry. Yeah, I think though. To me though. Again, the draft is such a wild card. We can guess all day long. Some people don't want to hear about the draft yet, and apparently until a few hours before it starts. But for me, I think there's more of a chance that they trade the number 19 pick and try to get some of those second round if they can get into the second round. But again, it all depends who falls there. Right. If something crazy happens at the top, something crazy could still happen at the top of the draft. Cincinnati.
Something crazy always happens.
Something happens, and that changes the whole first round. So if you're the Raiders and something nuts happens, suddenly you're like, no, we need to hold on to these first-round picks. Forget the second round right now. Or if it starts to fold out differently, then you say, you know what, we're going to get that guy we really want at 12. There's nobody that we really are in love with that we can wait for another 10 or 15 picks for, so we're going to take somebody at 19. I still think, though, that they're going to take 12 and 19. I don't see them trading. They can package a lot of thirds, future firsts and seconds to get into the second this year, which I think they'll try to do probably as well, especially because they got cap now. And so if you're going to – you want to – again, we had it on a few weeks ago when we talked with a guest, and I forgot who it was now, but the most valuable thing in the world is a rookie contract in the NFL. So the more rookies you can get that are impact rookies, the better. So I think that's what they're going to end up doing.
That's why, I was talking to somebody that I know that works in the league about what it's going to take to get Ngakoue. And obviously Jacksonville wants a first-round pick. He doesn't think they're getting a first-round pick for Yannick Ngakoue, one of the best defensive linemen in football, because it's a first-round pick and one of, if not the largest, contracts that's going out there. And the reason you have first-round picks is to get that cheap contract.
Yeah.
That just blows me away that one of the best young defensive linemen in football is not worth more than a first-round pick. But
that's the finances.
Once you factor in the contract, it makes sense.
It does, and that's what changes the game. That's why it changed. That's why that chess game of the front office and what you have to do in the NFL is such a big deal. But it's going to be an interesting couple weeks, guys. And, of course, we're going to be here, guys. Make sure you're with us every Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m., streaming on the freeradio.com app. The show will be up within a half hour on our feed. If you take it on YouTube, Google, Spotify, wherever you get it, it will be there for you 30 minutes after we're done here. In addition, check out silverandblacktoday.com, our website where we have all the latest Raider news and information. Do that as well. Check out YouTube. Make sure you subscribe at YouTube. We're going to have another drone. I'm about to shoot a new drone video today of the stadium, so check that out. Chaz Osborne, thanks, brother.
Yep, thank you.
Kelly Kreiner, thank you. Appreciate the epic rant today. For our engineer, Trent Ogle, and for our executive producers, Paul Ihander and Mark Bonilla, we thank you guys for being with us. We will be back here next week. I appreciate it. And as always, may the autumn wind be at your back, Raider Nation. We'll talk to you next week.